Hey class, in today's lesson, we're going to be learning about what causes the seasons that we experience on Earth. The objective of today's lesson is to be able to explain the effects of the Earth's tilt. Let's recall from a previous class you might have seen the globe in, and if you haven't, that's totally okay. We're just going to briefly go over it. There's this thing called the equator that divides the Earth into two halves. The lower half is referred to as the southern hemisphere, and the upper half is referred to as the northern hemisphere. We know that our temperatures are typically warmer towards the equator, and while you move either way north towards the very tip of the northern hemisphere or the northern pole, as you may have heard, or way south towards the southern pole, our temperatures decrease. So there's also this thing called the prime meridian that is running laterally across the Earth, whereas the equator runs horizontally. So that means, left to right, across, or prime meridian is up and down. So now that we have learned about Earth's motions, more specifically rotation, so that's just Earth, that's just our day and night, 24 hours on Earth, and then revolution, which is Earth's movement around the sun, which is responsible for our year, we're going to ask ourselves what causes the seasons. So this is a diagram that you'll need to copy into your guided notes. So as you see, Earth orbits around the sun. And we know it orbits around the sun in the shape of an ellipse. So I'm just tracing this with my mouse just so you guys can see the motion. So as we get towards different points in our orbit, our planet experiences different seasons. And so when we are at our aphelion, the furthest point away from the sun, we are experiencing summer. Whereas when we are at the closest portion over here, that is considered winter for us. So take some time to copy this down into your notes. And autumnal equinox means autumn. Vernal equinox would be our spring. Okay? So let's ask ourselves what causes the Earth's seasons? So seasons are caused by the tilt of the Earth's axis as it revolves around the sun. And because the Earth orbits on a tilted axis, not all parts of the Earth receive the same amount of sunlight. So we see this with just our simple rotation, 24 hours, when one side is experiencing night and the other side is experiencing day. This is kind of similar as we are revolving around the sun. We are also experiencing seasons because the tilt changes how much sun is being received by each part of Earth. So here's a diagram that allows you to see it. So this is Earth, and so is this. So when the southern hemisphere is tilted towards the sun in December, and then the northern hemisphere is tilted away from the sun in December. The northern hemisphere is experiencing winter, whereas the southern hemisphere is experiencing summer. In contrast, when we are in June, when it is June for us, the northern hemisphere, so that's where the United States is tilted towards the sun. So it experiences summer, whereas the southern hemisphere is tilted away from the sun and it experiences winter. Okay? So I want you to fill in the blanks. During the months of December through March, the Earth is tilted away from the sun. The Northern Hemisphere will experience this season as blank, while the Southern Hemisphere will experience this season as blank. So if you filled the first blank as the Northern Hemisphere will experience this season as winter, you are correct, while the Southern Hemisphere will experience this season as summer. Great. So let's try this one. During the months of June through August, the Earth is tilted towards the sun. The Northern Hemisphere will experience this season as blank, while the Southern Hemisphere will experience this season as blank. If you said the Northern Hemisphere will experience this season as summer, while the Southern Hemisphere will experience this season as winter, you are correct. So I want you to try your best to complete this diagram on your own. You need to work on labeling each of these seasons that you see in here. Once you're done with that, go ahead and type into Edpuzzle saying that you finished, and then you'll be able to see the answers. So these are the answers for our previous diagram. Make sure to check yourself. And then lastly, let's ask ourselves like a quick checkpoint question. So by the end of today's lesson, we want to be able to answer what causes there to be seasons on Earth. So is it A, the distance of the Earth and Sun, B, the rotation of the Earth, C, the tilt of the Earth, and D, the movement of the Moon around Earth? If you said C, the tilt of the Earth, you've really just aced this lesson. Make sure you complete your independent practice once you're done with this lesson and your exit ticket. Thanks, guys. Have a nice day.